Good afternoon again. So I wanted, actually I was very glad about the discussion we had earlier because it sort of made it clear to me why it's important what I'm proposing that we're going to do. This is based on work, part of the Area Voluspa EU project, it's a Horizon 2020 project, which is coming to an end in December, but the BRC will take up aspects of that and progress it. So basically, virtual humans are going to be really important for a lot of things. Why? Because there's a lot of task-specific AI, which basically now has superhuman performance, meaning that they are really, really good at performing a particular task. But communicating with those things is not that easy, and I think that virtual humans and interactive artificial intelligence will form an interface to such things. However, they're quite often not very, very natural, and one of the things that we've tried to do in this EU project is actually reduce the gap of how artificial they appear and try to make them more natural. So, of course, conversational agents sort of exist nowadays. You might argue how conversational they really are, but things like Siri and Alexa, they are at least speech-based interfaces. But they don't really use gaze, so they don't realize when you're speaking at it or at someone else. They don't recognize gestures, they don't use tone of voice, they don't know whether you're male, female, whether you're a child or an old person, okay? And unable to actually use this reduces the capabilities a lot, and so that's one of the things that we included. So we really built a system that has audio and video at sort of the input side. So we're doing speech recognition, we're doing gender and age estimation based on audio and video. We do expression recognition, emotion recognition, and that's all in that input. And then we decide what to do with that input, and then we realize that in a virtual human. So that's sort of the general breakup of our system. So it has all kinds of features, like I said. We can also run it on a server, so we can create client-based, web-based clients to deliver a virtual human in your home. We can record the interactions easily, which makes it very useful for doing scientific experiments, etc. It's not perfect though. Okay, so this is not the end of it, but it's a good system to start working with and to extend if you so wish. It's also very modular, so you can rip out a particular part like the dialogue management system and then use someone else's dialogue management system. As long as you conform to the standards, it'll all work. So why is this important? Well, within the Biomedical Research Center in Nottingham, we've got a theme doing objective assessment, where we want to develop sort of objective, automated means of determining someone's levels of depression or some other mental health conditions, which are reliable, repeatable, etc., evidence-based. So the idea is to use the virtual humans to do this. Now, there's lots and lots of nice challenges that I can start working on. So all these challenges, addressing the limitations of existing objective descriptors, looking at temporal dynamics of behavior, etc. Okay, I'll have fun with these things for the next few years. But that's perhaps not the most important question, because in the end, we are assuming that these things, these virtual humans, are replicating a social situation, and we're not sure about that. So there's a few assumptions made that we're not sure. So in the end, these virtual humans are just a means to an end for us to do experiments, okay? One really interesting aspect of virtual humans, by the way, I haven't mentioned before, is that you have full control over the virtual human. You know exactly what it does. So whenever you record a response, you know exactly what the response was to, and you can also present the same stimuli to people in exactly the same way. So in that way, it also makes it easier to compare. Now, the big question, of course, is this valid, right? So this whole assumption of that you can use these virtual humans to diagnose or monitor or predict levels of depression and other mental health conditions. Anxiety is another one that people do in the States. Because they assume that there is this social setting, that you're simulating a person-to-person interaction simply by making this virtual human appear like a human. Okay, and we're assuming that it can do therapy as well. We're assuming that it can do predict depression and anxiety. Now, the depression and anxiety prediction, okay, we can sort of measure that, but we don't really know whether it actually mimics a social setting. And we also don't know whether showing such a thing over a screen works. So we set out to actually break down this problem and see where exactly does the depression prediction come from, what is important. So we developed a protocol, which we call the Virtual Human Questionnaire, where we're basically going to take a step back, and we're just going to use these virtual humans to deliver existing questionnaires, so the PHQ 8 or PHQ 9 one, and the one for anxiety, which is the GAD 7. Thank you very much. And we're going to run people through that in a couple of different situations, about 60 to 100 people probably. So we're going to have 3 objective assessment targets. We're going to try to predict anxiety, depression levels, and personality, all self-assessed using these standard questionnaires. And then we're going to mix 3 different interaction types. So we're going to have human-agent, where the agent is a virtual human, real human-human face-to-face, and human-human, where one of the humans is mediated, meaning you see them through a screen, as in a Skype interaction. And so we have these 3 experimental variables, and we have the 3 interaction types, and we're going to randomize the order, meaning that some anxiety test might be done face-to-face, and the depression might be done in a human-agent situation, and personality in a mediated setting. So the participant number n might have this sort of order of things. Participant n plus 1 might have a completely different one. And we tagged in an extra sort of pilot study, because I do think in research pilot studies are a good thing to do, that will look at video diaries, okay? So this is something that we intend to do in the future, so we will collect some data while we have them in the room anyway. Okay, so this is then the virtual human questionnaire protocol. We will basically recruit them. We'll ask them to do a questionnaire the day before. These questionnaires are usually based on a 2-week window, so asking them the questions a day in advance shouldn't matter. And of course, we can't ask them to do that just before the actual experiment, because that will probably interfere with the experiment. We check whether they're eligible. We have proper safeguarding in place. And then brief them, consent them, and do the main study, and then the video diaries. And then hopefully out of this we will have some answers as to in what situations are virtual humans actually reasonable to use. Do they mimic a social relation or not? Is the mediation the problem or not? Do you want to be face-to-face or not? So that's how we're trying to start to chip away at the science of actually interacting with interactive AIs. Thank you very much.